Welcome to the Derek Diamond Experience podcast, where every week I take a look inside the world of film and television with those who have lived it and experienced it. I am your host, Derek Diamond, and joining me on today's show is actress Danielle Deadwyler. Danielle, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How you doing?
Doing good. We were actually just talking, and I feel like it's become tradition on this show since late March, early April. We were talking about the craziness that has been the year of 2020. So how is the pandemic and everything else that's been going on in this crazy year been affecting you and your career?
It put it on hold. It completely stopped. March, 13th, I was out in New Mexico and I was about to go to work like the next day. And they're like, hey, we're going to give you a call and let you know what's going on in the morning. I said, okay, cool. And next thing you know, the day after that, I was on a plane going back home. So it halted all of the things. And for the next, 6 months, it's been, reassess your life. So that's what the pandemic did to the career. The action of the career. Everything went super interior. So, yeah.
Well, and that's been one positive about it is, I know for me personally, it's given me a lot of time to do some self-reflection and work on, the inner portion of yourself and not just the, like writers, for example, can still sit at home and write, but actors, those who do the physical on-set portion in the industry have been essentially sitting at home. And I know that some productions have been slowly starting back, I'm sure with restrictions and guidelines and things like that. So it is good to hear that things are trending in the right direction, at least.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't completely stop everything. Let me renege on that. There were auditions happening, so you can do that from home. You can do your self-taping. Additionally, there were numerous readings taking place. So it's like really people getting back into the word of what we do, as opposed to, bodies being together. You can't halt art. Psych. So that was the beauty of what was happening. And we figured out all these other kinds of ways to kind of dig into what we do. So we got super creative and stayed significant, whether it was for theater or film and TV. It all just happened to make itself, blend into the Zoom world. So.
Right. Yeah. A lot of things have gone virtual. And I don't know about you, but I never even heard of Zoom until the pandemic hit and everybody's like, oh, do a Zoom meeting. And I'm like, what's that? Like, I've heard of Skype and I've heard of other programs.
Skype, FaceTime, all that stuff, but not Zoom. No, this is in the psyche now. It should have a vocabulary with Merriam-Webster. So...
It's going to be added into the dictionary, I'm sure, within the next year or so, because I don't think it's going anywhere. Like, there'll still be virtual aspects of things, even when things are, continuing to trend in the right direction. Because I've said this almost ad nauseum on the show with people I've talked to. I don't think what we knew as normal will ever be the case again. Like, I think... It's almost like when 9/11 happened back in 2001, it changed travel and changed security permanently. I think this is going to change certain things permanently. What exactly those are, I'm not sure, but I think it's going to happen. Yeah.
Germaphobes have completely been, reified in their peril.
That's true. That is true. So talk to me about, you mentioned working in theater and film and television. What was it that made you want to pursue these things, and what came first, theater or your film and TV career?
It was theater first. To be more precise, it was dance. And dance just segued, is a theatrical experience unto itself. So my mom was like, I was dancing as a 3-year-old or something, and she's like, I'm gonna put that baby in dance. And so she put that baby in dance, and that baby continued to do all of the arts-oriented things. I'm from Atlanta, so there's a rich Black arts culture that was happening in the 80s and the 90s. So I'm very much rooted from that. worked at or was taught at Total Dance Theater and with Gary Harrison Studios. They were big people in theater and dance at the time, and I just naturally segued into performance. Like it's just been a part of my life, performing professionally, performing in community, and I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to be an academic. Like when I got to college, and because I was a history major and did more interdisciplinary studies, and thought I was going to go into, become an academician and live in the collegiate world and whatnot. And the arts had something else for me and was like burning, the DNA to go back to what it did and what it does. Just blend the two, blend the academics and the arts in a new way, in a different way, for my body and my mind. And so that's when after I taught 2 years, I taught elementary school for 2 years, 4th and 5th grade. And something just said, do that pivot. And I pivoted and I did a play in Atlanta. And it hasn't ceased since. So it went back into theater, back to the root. And then Atlanta started to have a kind of boost in film and TV at the time, or that rumbling, right? And then it's just been, I've just been rolling ever since.
And I want to echo your sentiments about Atlanta, because I actually don't live extremely far from Atlanta. I live down in Pensacola in Florida, so just 4 to 6 hours away. And Atlanta is one of my favorite cities to visit. And I echo completely what you said about the culture and everything. It's something that I love to experience, because Atlanta has almost become, I don't know if Hollywood East is an exaggeration, but with a lot of bigger Hollywood South, yes. With some of the more recent Marvel movies that have been filmed there and other big projects that have made their way to Atlanta, has just drawn more attention to the town. I remember going there on family vacations as a kid. Still love going there as an adult. So I totally echo, what you said about Atlanta.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It was a funny thing because when I started back, I moved to Vancouver with my family at the time, and my son was born in Vancouver, and Vancouver was a bit more further along with production at the time. So I really started a film and TV career there, particularly in the commercial world, television and commercial world, and that got me connected to my reps. And then I moved back home, and then it started to boost in the Atlanta region.
Well, it makes me think to a conversation I had on the show a couple of weeks ago. Now with the emergence of indie film over the last several years, it's shown that you don't have to live in Los Angeles in order to act or to direct or really do anything in the industry. Because if you want to just make movies, you can do it in Atlanta. You can do it in Nashville. You can do it in Austin, Texas. You can do it in New York. You can do it here in Florida.
Mm-hmm. The pandemic has shown us you can do whatever you want to do from wherever you are. Technology is limitless, right, in that capacity. And so essentially that's how Devil to Pay happened. I wanted to connect with folks in the indie community. And I said, because I love indie movies, period. They're just an affinity, an indelible part of my world, and the way I travel through the world, and the way I care for myself, and sitting down in a movie theater and being by myself with like 5 other folks at noon o'clock on a Wednesday. That was rich to me. And those kinds of movies, indie movies are the ones that I would go see. And so I sat down with Lane and Ruckus. I can't remember even what they saw me in. And they were like, let's go have some coffee. We sat down, we had some coffee. We talked about each other. We talked about the kind of movies we want to make, the kind of genres I'm interested in. Next thing you know, a couple months later, these crazy people came back with a script. And they said, if you like this, let's do it. And then boom, it just went from there. It's just people connecting. I would say, the Atlanta Film Festival is where I think we met and connected with a bunch of other indie filmmakers. Just folks really like humping it out and making what they want to see in the world. So I just became a part of that world, and everybody's still just humping it out, making stuff, connecting with folks, doing what they can with as much as they can or as little as they have. that's the grit and dog fight of indie filmmaking.
Well, and it shows that the networking, and there's networking, I'm sure, in bigger productions too, but especially when it comes to indie film, it's so important to network and connect with people, because you can meet someone who might have a completely different talent than you. With you acting, you can meet someone who is a writer that you can collaborate with, or someone who's a director that you can collaborate with, and through them you connect with other people, and then next thing you know, you're all on a set making a movie. I did the same thing a couple of years ago, and it's crazy that it's almost that simple, but it's almost like the right things have to align, because it has to be the right people and the right project and the right things and everything like that. So that's really cool. And film festivals, and I've had the pleasure, I haven't been to the Atlanta one yet, but I have had the pleasure of going to a few film festivals, and I love them. I love the conversations that can happen with people. I love the Q&As that are after the movies and everything. I stress, even if you don't, like, if you make a film and it doesn't get accepted to a festival, you should still go to a festival so you can get that experience.
Yeah, anything you don't get, go back again or support it still, because it's something that, can enrich you in some capacity. I've said, I've gotten no 50 million times. And that's not an indication to recoil. It's an opportunity to attract even further, and that's what I've been doing. Like, no, you don't want me? Please, let's think about that. But the Atlanta Film Festival, you got to go, man. Like, I was in the Atlanta Film Festival. I'm an Atlanta Film Festival residency, Atlanta Film Society residency alum, and that. It's done everything to connect me with folks, to usher me through what it means to get support financially or just resource-wise. Like, film festivals have the capacity to do different things for you, not just, give you money, or not just to present your film. And so AFF has done that. Yeah, that's community, that's family.
When this COVID crisis is over, I will definitely make my way up to Atlanta for the film festival, whenever it may happen again.
And it's running now virtually, so
okay,
you could be digital.
Yeah, there are a few other festivals I know of that are doing completely virtual. There's one, like, as we're recording this, one called the Mountain Tales Film Festival that's normally based in Alabama. They're doing theirs virtually this year, and as you just essentially, like, you get a pass and you just sit down on your couch and watch a ton of movies.
Yeah, I know Black Star did it. Atlanta's doing it. I think New Orleans is doing it. But even I think the Atlanta Film Festival is having drive-in presentations too. So
cool.
Take you back. I know we have one drive-in theater in Atlanta, Starlight. So you can get a little nostalgic.
Yeah, I had back in May, there was I think it was called the Pop-Up Movie Tour that came through here, and they showed the original Star Wars movie, and I went to see that because I'm a huge fan of that franchise, and it was just the whole thing where you park your car, you turn your radio to a certain station, and you listen to the audio from the movie. Like, it's a really cool experience.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like, it's and just the presenting of films have happened in all kinds of ways. I know somebody was doing something in Atlanta where they had live orchestral music playing whilst the visuals are up, as opposed to, like, it just being a traditional movie. Like, people are trying to push the margin. They're trying to bring people out to connect. You don't got to touch somebody physically in order to connect. There are all kinds of ways to do things. So, yeah, I'm excited to see that type of manifesting happening.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the film The Devil to Pay, which you mentioned how you got involved with it. So once you get the role, how was your experience making the movie? Because through watching it, you're the one who drives the story, because you're in practically every moment of the entire movie. So how was your experience on set making this film?
Man, engrossing. Like, you're just consumed, and that tends to be the case in anything that I do. But this is the opportunity to lead. I've only had a couple other opportunities to lead films, but this was this is somebody saying, Lane and Ruckus came to me like, we want you to do this. We're not going to do it if you don't do it. I mean, or we may not do it if you don't do it. And they said, okay. I said, okay, let's go. So we were up in the North Georgia mountains for like a month, huffing it out, all over the place. They were getting resources on the whim or making trucks happen, cars happen from folks. Like, it was favors. It was really, a get down in the dirt kind of movie. And you just stay in it. At the end of the day, there's nothing to you don't come back. Like, you go home, I take a shower, you're back in it because you're up the next morning, ready to dig into another section of the film. And it's just keep going. It was a beautiful experience just to be with people and like making that shit happen. It's what you want to do. It's a team. It's a little nation working toward a little goal. And it's hard. It was cold. It's I'm trying to remember. It's beautiful. We saw the leaves change, and that's like being deep under it, right? Like, sometimes I don't know. It was just glorious. It was really lovely to be in the experience with people. Yeah. And my son was a part of it too. He played my son.
Oh, that's fantastic. No, he was great. I loved the scenes with you two together. I mean, that explains the chemistry you guys had.
Yeah. No, I mean, Lane and Ruckus were adamant in asking him to do it because they wanted the mother-son camaraderie, the mother-son love. And they auditioned some other boys, but they're like, could you ask Ezra one more time? And he had done an audition for a short film before, like not too long before they had asked. And he was like, oh, I don't know. I didn't feel comfortable with my audition. I could have done it better this way. I was like, excuse me. Okay, cool. No. But then they came back. He was like, really? Okay, I'll give it another go. And so he did the audition and he wanted to do it again and again, like the audition to do the scenes amongst them so they could see. So I wasn't going to have him do it if he didn't want to really do it. I'm not trying to be like no momager. That's another life. But he ended up saying yes. And so it was beautiful for him to come up and play. I think he did like a week or something, or only on the weekend because, of course, he was in school. So, yeah, it was a beautiful thing.
Sounds like you have a future actor on your hands.
Oh, don't say that. It's a rough
life. Maybe so.
Rough life. He's a fortnighter. I'm cool with that. And he's his own editor. So he taught himself to edit. I'm like, okay, cool. That's funky. We can use that. But I don't know. We'll see about the act.
Yeah. Well, I mean, editing's a good skill to have too. Editing's very important as well. So
yeah.
you never know. So that's fantastic. So you play the character of Lemon Cassidy. When you were approached to do the movie and you were reading the script, what was it specifically about that character that drew you to want to play it?
Well, first I was like, Black people in Appalachia? Okay, let's dig into that. I wasn't as versed as I would have wanted to be, in knowing about that history, but that was something to dig into deeply. It's an action thriller to a great degree, right? It's got that. I was interested in the fight, like the dog fight of what does it mean to be a mother and what does it mean to be pushed to your edge. I feel like that all the time. It's about, negotiating or juggling all of these selves, all of these different spheres. And Lemon is doing that. Lemon is trying to, where is my husband? How do I protect my child? How do I maintain my land? How do I deal with these fucked up people who are trying to impose themselves on me? It's very much it could have been any kind of body that did this work, but because my Black body, my Black womanhood body is doing it, that makes it political in a different sense. It's a metaphor for the things that are happening now. And so to show that resistance, to show how we can intellectually finagle our ways through people who are trying to corner us. That's what I was down for. And to take that lead and really show that kind of a spirit, that's attractive in a role. That's what you want to do. You want to show somebody who makes a leap from what they had been doing to then. So she goes from somebody who's being pushed around to somebody who is smart enough to outwit some folks. So that was attractive. That's what made Deborah Pay funky.
Well, and you speak, on one of the biggest takeaways I had from the movie is that I've always been intrigued by that story of the person who starts out as someone who might be pushed around a little too easily, and then they just slowly hit that breaking point of, I'm not going to take it anymore. And to see that transformation is really cool to see on screen. And I think also the world that was created, and I'm going to try and stay away from spoilers from people who haven't seen the movie yet, but I think the world that was created, because it's almost like, it takes place in modern times, it seems like, but there's also a little bit of like an old school, like, because you mentioned, the self-governing society that you live in, and also like dealing with issues in their own way. They're like self-governing. They're almost apart from the entire world. And like you mentioned, the location and everything was beautiful with the mountains and just the visual of everything. I thought was really cool. So, and that's what I enjoy about movies, is kind of getting sucked into a different world for whether it's 30 minutes or 3 hours. That's what made me fall in love with movies, is just getting completely immersed in a story and forgetting about everything else that's going on for however long the movie might be. And I thought that you guys did a fantastic job of creating that type of a world where you can escape.
Yeah, thank you. That was the experience. I don't know if I like properly said that before, but it was being consumed in this mountainous region, and to feel like you are away from everything, and to feel like whoever is around you is who's governing with each other, right? And so, there weren't people around at the end of the day. It's pretty quiet. It's pretty secluded. It's getting towards, I think we were like October, November when we were shooting. And this isn't the section of North Georgia where people are like, let's go shopping and getting, some rocks. And no, it wasn't that cute. It was a little more, desolate, and you could hear things outside, like, coyotes or something. I don't know what they were. I didn't see them, but they were there. So yeah, it does. You are in a whole nother world, because we were all living in another world together. We were all in this like huge farm mountain house, huffing it out. So yeah.
Well, it's cool to see areas like that still around, because I grew up in a small town of less than 500 people. So I know what it's like to be in that type of rural, like isolated from the rest of the world type of environment. So to see that on screen, and there's a scene specifically where your character is looking for a car, and you say, "I have nothing to barter with." And you're like, wow, this feels like old school, like 18th century type stuff where people are trading, food for cattle and things like that. So it was. We
about to go back.
Yeah. At this point, it wouldn't surprise me. But no, it was, like I said, my biggest takeaway from the movie is that I love that world that was created through the writing, and then you guys bringing it to life, from the visuals to your performance to all the other actors' performances. Like, it felt like a very believable society that I could see existing in North Georgia. And I think that's... Oh, go ahead.
We don't forget that that's a lot of America, though, right? Like, that's what it is, these small towns who are deeply distanced, literally, from big cities, and they're in an experience of being at home a lot, and not necessarily. They have access to internet, they have, access to cable and things like that, but there's a distance when it's not happening close to you, unless you choose to be one of those folks who travels outside of that world, who says, I hate this place, I'm never going back home ever. You know what I mean? So I want people to know that, like, that's a real thing, you know, because I was a part of, or it's a real experience. It's an experience that has not yet completely, that experience is not dissolved, right? Those people live these types of lives.
And it's still crazy to think that we're in 2020 and there's, you know, the population is so much bigger. Cities have grown bigger, but there are still those little pockets where they're isolated from the rest of the world.
Yeah, that's why you have these crazy stories about things happening to folks. And yeah. So there's value in Devil to Pay beyond murder.
And usually those stories happen in Florida.
I was going to let you say it.
It's like every story I read is like, oh, a man in Florida, wherever the city may be, and I'm just like, oh, guys, come on. Can we get it together?
No.
No, we can't, apparently.
And Georgia and Florida are right next to each other, so I'm not even gonna let us slip. Let us slide. Nope. We could.
You guys are just like the neighbor that just hears the disturbance at the house, but you just don't want to, like, you're like, yeah, we should probably go check on them, but nah, we're good.
No, we sit outside with beers and watch.
Even better. And you know what? I wouldn't blame you in the slightest. Not in the slightest. So as we start to wrap up here, I did want to ask, what is one, it could be a funny, crazy, or any type of story that happened on the set of The Devil to Pay that stood out to you?
Oh, man. You know, that was so many years ago. Oh, that's a hard one. I mean, at the end, there's of course, there's a distillery up there. And you what do when you finish a movie? You go to the distillery, right? And so we went there and learned about moonshine and the gloriousness of moonshine.
Oh boy.
Don't oh boy me. I just told you Georgia's sitting down and watch Florida do what they do. We're gonna have some moonshine or some brew, either one. So but no, that was cool. I'm pretty sure also a coyote or some four-legged animal came up to the house and, you know, did that kind of thing where they go, just want you to know I'm here and I see you and you see me. And then he just went back into the darkness. So I never went outside alone, to say the least.
That was a very wise decision.
And ain't no street lights like that. It's dark. It's like Vanta Black dark, you know? You gotta be careful.
That's another thing with those small towns too, or those rural areas, there are no street lights. So it's like, even when you're driving at night and you have your headlights, it's still really dark and you can't really see much.
And I'm black, dude, so, you know.
Yeah, that's nuts. But last thing I wanted to ask you before we get out of here. So when I was looking up your IMDb, there was something I saw that I had to ask you about. So you were in a couple of episodes of one of my most recent favorite TV shows, and that was Watchmen.
Oh, yeah.
How was your experience on that? Because I thought that show was amazing.
There is a rigor to and that's not to say that anybody else isn't, but there was a rigor to making that episode that I haven't experienced. There was a technical rigor and a performative rigor that was being called on. And we would do scenes, you know, Stephen Williams, who directed it, he talked about wanting theater actors, somebody who could, you know, like hold a particular a certain breath, a longevity, right? So we would do some of the scenes, they would be 20 minutes long. And it was all, you know, a single take. so this was beautiful because it's like you're deep in it, right? And the camera, everybody has to be on point in order for something to make sense. In order for you to get to that's what we're looking for. So we would be doing these 20-minute long scenes, possibly 15, 20 minutes. And then we would get to, say, 17th, 20th take. And Steve would be like, okay, now we get somewhere. And I'd be like, yeah, let's go, mother. Let's go. That's the kind of, like, television making that was, it is, you want to get it right. You want to push. And then the not to mention thematically and content wise, we're dealing with heavy group stuff. So, I mean, all that to say, like, that's the kind of stuff you want to make. You want to make stuff that's pushing you, that's pushing the crew, that's pushing all of us to get to some goal. Like, it's not a perfection, but it's something akin to it. I think it's akin to the energy of perfection. I think you can have a good energy. You may not reach that thing, but everybody can be working towards the same thing. And I think that's what Watchmen was. That experience was for me.
Fantastic. No, like I said, I thought that show was really well done. And I remember hearing about it and was curious as to how they would pull it off because, the movie came out now, I think, over a decade ago. And it was very divided as far as whether people liked it or not. I personally liked it because I had read the book beforehand, so I knew what to expect. But no, I thought the show from start to finish was very good. So that's awesome that you got to be involved with that.
Yeah. No, truly a blessed opportunity. Yeah. And I mean, they Emmy winners. Ha!
Yeah.
Boom.
Absolutely. So, what is one piece of advice that you could give to an aspiring actor or actress?
Ooh. Everything counts. That's what I'm going to say. Everything counts. The smallest thing, the grandest thing. I think my mentor, one of my mentors, Andrea Fry, she's a beautiful actor, like theater, film, and television. She's a theater director as well. Talks about elevating what you do. You elevate whatever you do. And I think that is set with me very well. Because, people always want this next thing, and it's not about that. It's literally, your life is literally about where you are in the present, because that's all you have. And your project is about where you are in the present. And we can only go moment to moment. And so everything that you do counts. And you have to make everything that you do count. And that's by elevating wherever you are in the present moment.
I think that's perfect. And I'm guilty of it myself. You think sometimes people look too far ahead in the future. Some might look at some type of regret or something they wish they would have done in the past. But, a lot of people don't think of what's going on at that moment in time. So that's fantastic advice.
Yeah. I mean, that's what acting is. It's living, right? It's life. It's being.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's what 2020 has taught us, right? We have to halt and move where we are. And that's what I'm trying to get into it. It's a different kind of, I think we're all being called to flow differently. So.
Absolutely. And do you have any website or social media that you'd like to plug so the listeners can follow you?
Oh, do I really want you guys to follow? Sure. I'm Danielle Deadwyler, at Danielle Deadwyler on Instagram. I am not a Twitter talker, but I'm present-ish. I'm at Captain_D_. Facebook is Danielle Deadwyler. And if you just want to go to my website, it's DanielleDeadwyler.com. I'm there.
Awesome. Well, Danielle, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview. It was fantastic.
Man, Derek, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And if you guys want to follow me on social media, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at DDiamondPodcast. You can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast for free. Just search for The Derek Diamond Experience. And of course, thank you to my close friends, the Unicorn Wranglers, for providing the theme music for the podcast. You can check out all their music on Apple Music, Google Play, and Spotify. That's going to do it for this week's show. Thank you for tuning into another awesome episode of the Derek Diamond Experience. I am your host, Derek Diamond, and we'll see you guys back here next Thursday.